Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Born of the Gods here from Valencia, Spain. My name is Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Zach Hill in our feature match area. Ari Lax looks ready to go, and there's Samuele Estratti, his opponent. Both players sitting at 1-0 and ready to battle here. We're playing some draft. This is Born of the Gods Theros draft. Nice start here from Samuele. We saw this before from William Huey Jensen. This time, though, it's on Estratti's side of the board. It's favored Hoplite on turn one. Going to battle in there for 1 damage point here. Let's see if he has a 2-drop follow-up, Zach. He does.
And you know you're looking at a really aggressive deck when you see Deathbellow Raider out of red-white.
That's right.
Obviously, without the ability to regenerate, you're committing to a lot of attacks. A lot can go wrong if your opponent does something as simple as play a 3-3, but that just shows how important it is for Samuele to have early creatures.
Interesting here. It looks like Ari's also on an aggressive plan here. Ari's currently ranked number 24 in the world in our top 25 pro ranking, so just on the list. He looks like his deck is quite aggressive, too. He started off here with an Acro and Skyguard, but he is going to be under savage pressure here from Samuele, especially depending on what he adds to the board here with his 3 mana. No, twin Deathbellow Raiders. You mentioned it, Zach. You don't see those every day outside of black mana, but they're a perfectly fine 2-drop for an aggressive deck, and he all of a sudden has 5 power on the board on turn 3, and poor Ari's left to play a Leonin Snarecaster after attacking for a single damage, and he doesn't even really have any great blocks here because the favorite Hoplite can pick up any combat trick and just eat his guy, and here it is right now. It's a Nyxborn Rollicker. I'm told that Ari Lax also, he mulliganed to 6, but still, this is savage.
Yeah, this is an incredible start from Estratti. He's also got Rise to the Challenge in his hand to back up any blocks that Ari might make. Of course, with a 2-1, not really a whole lot of blocks he can make, period. He's got Sudden Storm in his hand, which could buy him some time and allow him to start attacking. Also, an Acroan Phalanx that could theoretically eat one of those Minotaurs, but at 9 life, he doesn't have a lot of time to do all of that.
Yeah, he took 7 damage last turn, and Estratti is looking to keep the pressure on. Can Ari Lax stabilize this board? He's made an important play here with the Acroan Phalanx. That is really going to potentially blank some of these, the pair actually of Deathbellow Raiders. The question is, does Samuele have a combat trick? If he has one, he's going to be able to run over that Phalanx, and this game is going to end in short order, potentially. If he doesn't, and he just gets one of his Deathbellow Raiders eaten here, I can see a lot of scenarios where Ari can come back from this. I mean, he's going to take 5 here and drop to 4. All right, do you have it, Samuele Estratti? Ari Lax wants to know. And Estratti does. He has a Rise to the Challenge.
When you see Estratti taking his time, kind of thinking, moving in front, but you're going to jam that card down.
Old slow roll. I mean, he's just making sure.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and he passes a turn back and puts Ari Lax in a horrifically bad position now. Now, he has a Sudden Storm in his hand to keep a little bit of the pressure off. Remember, Samuele wasn't able to add anything else to his board that turn thanks to using that trick. But even then, this is going to drop Ari Lax down to 2.
And you see Ari actually drawing a mountain, doesn't play it, doesn't want to reveal that he's splashing or has a 3rd color. I think he's going to be able to Sudden Storm. It's still going to fall from 2 for this attack, and is going to either have to start chump blocking or muster a defense very soon.
All right, he's getting his scry out of the way, and it looks like he's got a tough decision here. Ari he usually plays very quickly, but he's really thinking about it here. I mean, this is obviously a critical point in the game. He decides to put the card on the bottom, drop down to 2 life here. Gets an untap. What does he find? An island.
I was thinking of cards that would do it. Elspeth would do it.
Elspeth would do it.
But I don't know that that's what he drew.
That is not what he drew.
Island.
He's got 3 basics in his hand right now. He can survive the next turn, though, so he will get a draw step. He does decide to reveal the mountain here. He's got 1 attack if he wants it.
I think he's trying to figure out, do I just attack with both my creatures and hope he doesn't attack, or which one do I attack with? Which one would I rather chump block with?
Well, I mean, he's obliged to attack.
Yeah, of course. Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
he must attack.
He must attack, yeah.
He can't forget even if he wants to. See, must attack is sometimes an upside.
That's right. I mean, is he bluffing? I don't know. I got to attack anyway. You figure it out. So that's going to do it. Samuele Estratti, in short order, takes game 1 versus Ari Lax.
Yeah, and I don't know if I were Ari, I would have revealed that mountain, but the game was he was going to bite the dust anyway.
That's right. All right, a quick message, and then we'll be right back.
Looking for that perfect card or just the right card sleeves and playmat for your next tournament? Gaming Etc. has what you're looking for. Use the promo code PTBNG to earn 10% off all singles and accessories at gamingetc.com. Play Magic at a store near you every Friday. Earn Planeswalker points and battle against your friends in Friday Night Magic. February's FNM promo card is Elvish Mystic. Visit wizards.com/FNM for more information.
And welcome back to coverage of Pro Tour Born of the Gods. You get a look at our feature match area there. We're going to take a quick look over here at Shota Yasuoka versus Raphael Levy. A pretty developed board here. A lot of permanence going on here, Zach. I see, well, there's an Afara's Warden. That doesn't get a lot of play.
Yeah.
But there it is. And alongside it, there's a Wave Crash Triton with something on it. And we've also got a Sealock monster on Shota's side. I'm told that life totals are currently 16-16, so we're kind of in that figuring out where we're at stage of the game, right? Nobody's clearly on the aggressive or not. Archetype of aggression, a Phalanx Giant, and there's also an Essian Asp over there for Raph.
Somehow this is a Shota Yasuoka appropriate limited deck. You got like Octopus. Ephara's Warden is the only white card that we see on his side of the board right now.
By the way, I think I get a look at what exactly is on that Wave Crash Triton.
What is it?
It's my favorite card from Theros.
Which is?
Thassa's Emissary.
Thassa's Emissary, yeah, one of the most powerful uncommons you can draft.
I call it Shelly. That's her nickname. It's Shelly.
To go along with Elmer.
Yeah, but I mean, seriously, that is such a blowout there. But it looks like he's getting aggressive with it, trying to keep cards ahead with 2 5/5 blockers sitting back, and now he also has mana available to start monstrosing those the Sealock monsters.
Yeah.
Like, things can get out of hand pretty quickly, and even a Essian Asp can be too small to tussle with 2 of those things.
Oh, exactly. I mean, and it looks like he's going to be able to activate Monstrous first, which is appropriate in the battle of size between the Asp and the Sealock monster.
Right, and that's one of those funny things, right, is like who gets to Monstrous first is often, it can matter pretty often.
Well, I mean, unless Levy just decides to do nothing this turn.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if he does that, he might find more problems. It's a Wave Crash Triton looking to lock down that Asp if he gets a chance.
But he does feel comfortable throwing the Asp in. Now, this opens up some potentially interesting options here from Shota's side. I mean, he can double block with his Sealock monsters, in which case, even if a Monstrous was done, Raph would lose his Essian Asp. So Raph has to be representing something else in order to make this correct. And Mortal's Resolve is going to 1-for-1 for one of the Sealock monsters. So that's a nice little play there. But it looks like Yasuoka says, hold on a sec.
Yeah, I really do like that double block, even in spite of that, because you know you're gonna have to do something about the Asp anyway. He's got a lot of mana, so you're expecting him to just activate Monstrous, and you're probably like, okay, I'm fine with you time walking. But if he uses a trick, that means he can't Monstrous.
That's right. Now, Shota said, hold on a second, I have Battle-Wise Valor in my hand. I might want to save my guy, but he decided not to.
Nah. Again, when you have Wave Crash Triton, I think you have to prioritize being able to either lock down your opponent's blocker to start drawing cards off Shelly, or just figure, okay, I'm going to be able to lock down that Asp once Levy has committed the mana to using Monstrous.
Mm-hmm. Which also explains why Raph didn't, right? I mean, he says, look, because he could have had a similar situation there, but he wants to play something else this turn.
Exactly.
I mean, if he wants to 1-for-1, which is what he ended up doing, he could have 0-for-1 and just, paid for Monstrous on his Asp, but I think he knew that wasn't going to go well. Plus, man, if Shota Yasuoka has Voyages in there, it's a disaster for Raph.
Well, exactly. And Levy's taking damage and losing card advantage to that Triton, so he really needs to deploy more threats to the board.
Right. And he does. He finds an Essian Courser there, and here's Battle-Wise Valor to lock something down. This is just basically freeze your guy, tap Scry 1.
Yeah.
Which is sweet.
Yeah, and being able to get that Scry there, too, is great at the end step before you draw to let him know, okay, how high of a priority is activating my Sealock monster right here? Is there anything else he can do? Or, is he going to draw something really solid?
That's right. And it looks like Yasuoka's going for the victory here. He taps down the Archetype of Aggression, pays for Monstrous, makes something an island, and battles with the squad, and that's going to do it. So it looks like Shota Yasuoka's up 1 game over Raphael Levy. Now, one thing to keep in mind about that particular feature match as well is that both of those players lost in their first round.
Right.
So, this is, we heard Rich talking about it at the news desk. This is an important time where, I mean, if you're 0-2 to start your pro tour, it gets pretty rough. All right, let's go back to our main feature match here. Samuele Estratti has another turn one favorite hoplite, so really nice starter there. And Ari Lax, interestingly, has a mountain and an island. Maybe no white mana source from him yet?
Yeah, I actually looked. I don't think he does. I don't think he has one. I think I get why he revealed the mountain in game one.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually only using it to activate activated abilities. So by showing his opponent a mountain, he's getting Estratti maybe thinking about, like, okay, what do I need to play around? Probably Lightning Strike, when in fact that doesn't actually exist.
Okay.
So
I mean, he also had that Akron phalanx there too.
That's what it's for.
Right.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
All right, so Estratti continuing his aggressive ways, though a Nyxborn Triton is going to sit there and kind of hold off, 2/3 of Estratti's force, and now all of them potentially. And there's Shelly again. Love that card, and it plays defense, it plays offense. It's a huge threat on the offensive side because you don't want to start getting hit by it.
Well, exactly. I mean, and we were talking about how good 2/3s were in this format. That 2/3 on Ari's side is holding off a 1, 2, 3, 4 curve.
Four
from
now,
Estratti.
yeah, that's insane, yeah. So really nice little board here for Ari Lax, though he's got to be a little nervous about, maybe some combat tricks being drawn from Estratti and allowing attacks. Looks like Thassa's Emissary, though, might be willing to go on the offensive here.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there are any bad double blocks for you. If Ari has any sort of trick, I mean, even if he doesn't have a trick, if you're just attacking, you have to kind of respect that your opponent respects that you have a trick. But on the other hand, I would double block if I was Estratti there just because my 2/2s aren't doing anything else.
So one thing that could have happened is that Ari says, well, he probably feels like he needs to block either way, so I'm not going to force the issue. So he played a Prescient Chimera instead.
Now, it looks like he does have things to do, but yeah.
He found a Plains.
Right.
So now his hand's kind of unlocked here. The card he does have in his hand, this is Ari Lax, of course, is he has
Dauntless Onslaught.
He has Dauntless Onslaught.
Right.
So
which you want to have 2 creatures attacking if you commit to using.
Correcto. All right, so it looks like Nyxborn Triton holding the fort in a huge way here, as it's basically blanked all of Samuele Estratti's board and allowed Ari Lax to build out the rest of his in a more defensive posture. And once he decides to flip the switch, he can go on the offensive and just start beating down.
Exactly, and drawing cards from Shelly to make sure he doesn't fall behind either.
That's right. Thassa's Emissary must be respected from Samuele Estratti, even though he'd like to try to get some offensive momentum moving forward to try to battle here. He doesn't want to start letting his opponent draw cards with Thassa's Emissary and then just fall away behind.
Now, this is an interesting attack from Estratti. We see both Titan Strength and Rise to the Challenge in his hand, so a lot he can make happen to grow that Cerberus. The question is, what does he want to use?
I like this block a lot from Ari Lax. He's perfectly fine if his opponent does have a combat trick, and also noting that Samuele Estratti has missed multiple land drops. He says, look, if you're going to use some of your mana, you mentioned it earlier, Zach, it's a slang term we use. We call it time walking. And, time walk says take an extra turn. It feels like that if you make your opponent use all their mana and not be able to cast a spell. And that's exactly what Ari just did to Estratti there.
And the other thing about a trick in that situation being used on 2-headed Cerberus, okay, if you don't block and you're not going to block, at some point in the game, you're going to take 8 damage.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well... is this creature worth 8 to me? And a lot of the times the answer is yes.
Yeah, and especially when you put that tempo play. So I don't know if you saw Ari Lax, though, put Hopeful Eidolon right on that Prescient Chimera. And it looks like Ari's lining up a block with his Thassa's Emissary here. He doesn't feel comfortable taking the full hit here.
Yeah, I think he's saying,
is this the same mentality that he had the last turn where it's like, look, you're still not developing your board. Use a combat trick.
Yeah, and especially once he has 4 points of lifelink damage in the air, I think he's just going to prioritize that creature. And he's saying to Estratti, basically, as long as you're doing things that aren't dealing with my 4/5 flying lifelinker, then I'll let you keep doing that. That said, Thassa's Emissary is so good.
It is.
That I don't know that I would have had the discipline to block with it there.
I mean, he saves 2 life there.
Maybe
more.
I mean, again, you have to assume if your opponent makes that attack that he has some sort of trick.
That's
but you're right. If he's not going to use it that turn, you're only saving 2 damage.
Yeah.
That said, again, I mean, I see where Lax is coming from. You don't want to run into 2 combat tricks from Estratti, maybe a Titan Strict and a Battle-Wise Valor, and just lose the game essentially on the spot.
That's right. But Ari has been able to fully develop his board here. Now he has 2 more creatures to add to the fray here. But really, this game is revolving around the 4/5 fine lifelink that Prescient Chimera is.
Yeah, the 1/1 from Ari's side not really accomplishing a whole lot right now. Might just serve as a chump blocker, which he seems to be doing on the 2-headed Cerberus anyway. But again, the 2/3 holding off basically Estratti's entire army.
Yeah.
Estratti might be at the point where he just needs to start attacking with all of his creatures anyway, and I guess that's what he does.
That's what he does. Now, this is an interesting one, though, for Ari, because now he has the active Triton there. Like, this is a little different, right? Now this thing can kill something and block. So maybe he's just going to keep doing it. I feel like he just really is fine with Estratti using his whole turn to 1-for-1, and while he has a better board and is able to develop it further.
Yeah, I mean, we see Magma Jet, we see Nyxborn Eidolon, we see Scouring. There are all these things that could theoretically do something from Estratti's side, but they're not dealing with the threat that matters right now.
And it did it. He used Scouring Sands to take down the blocker there and ship the turn back, but like you mentioned, he's not really getting anywhere. He needs to find some lands and get ahead. He's going to Battle-Wise Valor on upkeep here, I believe, to get that scry in there, and this is still not a 2-turn clock. And he gets 2 scries. Remember, the Prescient Chimera gives you a scry ability as well. He scries both to the bottom, draws his card, and is attacking.
And while it's not
damage.
Exactly, and while it's not a 2-turn clock by itself, it is if he draws another combat trick. And I think he thought there, okay, dealing my opponent 2 damage, gaining 2 life, and scrying twice, that's worth 2 mana.
Especially because he's clearly out of gas in his hand, right?
Right.
Okay. I like that.
And because, again, there's only one threat that really matters very much on this board right now.
Nyxborn Shieldmate is going to get a trigger. Everybody's in. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage. It's going to drop Ari Lax back down to 11. Ship the turn back, and there it is.
Yeah.
Dauntless Onslaught. He set it up. So he knew that over the course of the next 2 turns, he could get in for 6 and then 6, and he could even things up for this match, and he does this stat. So Samuele Estratti, a bit of bad luck there. He actually never found his 4th mana source there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he had a loaded hand, but didn't have the 2nd white for his Wingsteed Rider, and even though he had a lot of combat tricks, wasn't able to leverage them into damage. And 4/5 lifelinker in the air, hard for basically any deck to deal with.
So a couple of updates here. Oh, let's take a quick look over at one of our other matches. This is Owen Turtenwald on the left. And we came just in time to see him scoop. So it looks like, let's see, Owen is playing against Micron, and Mike, I'm assuming that was game 1, not 100% sure on that, but I do have an update on our other table, which was Michael Hetrick versus Rich Hohen. Hetrick has won 2-0 over Rich.
Rich Hohen, one of the all-time limited greats, much like Micron. So, I mean, there's a lot of limited mastery in the feature match area right now.
So that was game 1 for Han. So he's up 1-0 over Owen Turtenwald. You can see on the far back table that Raphael Levy and Shota Yasaoka are still going at it. We saw Shota win game 1.
Yeah, after the Shota with his 1 white card, Faros Warden, holding off an army of 3/3s quite nicely. Yeah, exactly. And taking it in the air. I'm sitting here as I'm watching this. There's like an NFL red zone feel to all these tables going on. I look down. There's a board flooded with permanents. Someone scoops it up. Okay, the feature match area. Yeah, exactly. How many enchantments are on the next Wingsteed Rider?
Yeah, I like it, though. I like being able to just pop in, kind of get a feel for what's going on. But it lets us maintain focused on our main feature match, which is sort of the one that we've been following from the beginning of the round. Yeah, welcome back to the booth for a moment here. We're letting our players finish sideboarding and get their shuffle on down there, and then we're going to get Game 3 from Ari Lax versus Samuele Estratti. So who do you like in the matchup, Zach? I mean, we've gotten a chance to see exactly what Samuele is doing. He's white-red. Yeah. He's trying to beat down as hard as possible, and Ari's got a little bit more going on.
Well, I've got to give the edge to Estratti, and it's for one simple reason, and that is that he's playing first. We've seen a lot of creatures that can get very big, very fast. We've seen the Battle-Wise Hoplite. We've seen 2-headed two-headed Cerberus, and those are creatures you just want to play and then unload all of your tricks. We've seen Nyxborn Rollicker, we've seen Titan Strength, and those are cards that are a lot better on the play, especially against blue-white, because the way blue-white comes back from things like that are things like Sudden Storm and other tempo cards, but when they're on the back foot, they're not going to be able to take advantage of that so much. So I vote Estratti in this match.
Now, what if, and this is a hypothetical,
You can't predict the future.
What if Ari Lax plays a 2-3? No, he's got enough combat tricks to fight through them.
Well,
right?
exactly.
We saw him leverage those in the last game really nicely, but really that was a function of the fact that Estratti didn't have enough mana.
Well, exactly, and and didn't have double white for Wingsteed Rider, which can fly right over the top of them. That said, your point is still valid. You don't always have a grip full of tricks, and those 2/3s were able to brick wall a lot of Estratti's creatures. So, a lot of it, as it always does, depends on the luck of the draw.
Sure.
But I'd still, if push came to shove, I'd pick Estratti for this game.
And speaking of luck of the draw, from what we've seen from Estratti, his deck looks to be very low mana curve, and it was quite consistent. Even on 3 mana, he had 4 creatures and resolved, 3 or 4 combat tricks or whatever. There's not that many decks that can do that.
Exactly, yeah. He was definitely behind. It definitely wasn't what he wanted to happen, but he was able to operate on 3 mana like a real Magic deck, which is more than a lot of decks can say when they're on mountain plains.
That's right. So it looks like players are just resolving mulligans, and we'll be back down to the feature match area to cap off round 2 here from Valencia. It's a beautiful day and a beautiful venue. I know that the last time we were here, there was a lot of flooding, but not this time. All right, looks like players are ready. Let's head back down to the feature match area to get Game 3 of Estratti versus Lax. Let's see if there's a... Well, there's a 2-drop for Estratti there. He didn't have the favorite hoplite this time, but a Crone Skyguard is, well, a lot better than a Traveling Philosopher, as you see over on Ari Lax's side. Though for now, it's just a 1-1.
Yeah, and operatively, that 1-1 can fly over any defense that Lax puts up. That said, a 2-2 outpaces a 1-1 in straight-up combat. That Death Bellow Raider is not normally known for its defensive prowess. Actually really good right here in opposition to that Traveling Philosopher.
All right, well, it looks like it's not going to be doing... it is going to be on offense, but it doesn't look like it's going to be able to get through too easily, as Chosen by Heliod is going to be played on the Traveling Philosopher, which is... basically to make it a bit of a brick wall. Now, Samuele Estratti, of course, must block, so Ari snaps off the block. He's just jumped right in there. And that means that Ari's going to take 1. And, okay, so it looks like Estratti also has his own Akroan Phalanx here. So Ari Lax, not the only one with that chase uncommon.
And in the battle of the Akroan Phalanxes, I think I've got to give it to Estratti, not only because he's on the play, but because he's actually playing red baseline in his deck and is going to have the ability to activate that card a lot more frequently than Ari is. He's got to sit here and think, okay, I've got to attack with that Death Bellow Raiders. I'm definitely going to attack with the Akroan Skyguard. The question is, does he want to Rollicker, and where, if anywhere, does he want to commit his strength?
This is going to be sweet. I'm really curious to see what happens here, because there's so many things that Ari Lax has to consider if Estratti just attacks with his creatures.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a handful of cards. He's got 5 untapped mana.
Right, all right, but he's going to actually play 1 card first, and he's not going to attack with the Crone Phalanx.
14.
And Samuele Estratti says, sure, I'll pump my team here, and that's going to drop Lax down to 14.
Yeah, and that's what Phalanx does. It gives your entire team +1/+0.
Right.
So that's why Lax didn't want to block with his Phalanx, because he doesn't want to trade down with a 2/3 that must attack.
Right. All right, Leonin Snarecaster is going to tap down the opposing Phalanx and let a Vigilance hit get in there to drop Estratti down to 17, but kind of sad there. Ari Lax just has to ship the turn back.
Yeah, Lax has a Voyage's End, which is
okay.
potentially extremely important here. Also has a Sudden Storm, so the more time Estratti spends making that Skyguard huge, the more powerful Sudden Storm's going to be when he's able to lock it down.
All right, so Ari Lax just asked Samuele Estratti, how many cards do you have? Because as we mentioned last time, if Estratti attacks, he has 5 mana and 2 cards. It's going to be difficult. Ari Lax really has to try to figure out what to block. But it looks like, again, Samuele Estratti's not going to risk his Akroan Phalanx and isn't bluffing anything huge as far as that goes. So Ari Lax is trying to decide what he wants to do here. He's going to double block Deathbellow Raider.
Well, Estratti has enough mana to activate the Crowan Phalanx twice.
Oh, twice now.
So the 6 mana, huge at this point. But if he commits all of his mana to doing that, again, Lax with Voyage's End is going to be able to recover extremely effectively, not lose all of his creatures to this block, and lock Estratti out of an entire turn potentially.
That's right. This is going to be a key turn, right? I mean, like how Samuele Estratti decides to play here. All right, so Ari Lax has to be happy here. He just traded his Snarecaster for the really annoying 2/3 must attack there of Deathbellow Raider, and a favorite Hoplite follows up for Estratti. Does Ari Lax fire off the Voyage's End? He does. A Crowan Phalanx back to Samuele Estratti's hand. That's on end step.
And I think the reason he's bouncing the Phalanx rather than the potentially more immediately threatening Skyguard is that's what he wants to lock down with Sudden Storm. And making your opponent spend 4 mana is obviously a lot better than making your opponent spend 2 mana.
To recast the creature.
To recast the creature,
Gotcha.
exactly. I mean, he's got a favored Hoplite there, but we have to expect that to be getting tapped down too. And Lax actually has a pretty formidable offense that he's mounting.
Lax is trying to decide if he wants to keep an Crowan Skyguard on the top of his library. This is the scry that's resolving from his Voyage's End. He's going to keep it on top.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's hard to throw away right here. With 6 mana, you can cast it in addition to your Sudden Storm, but it looks like he's not even going for Storm right here.
Wow, he's going to put a Nyxborn Triton. Look at this. And he's just going to attack there.
Now that
so 5 damage.
That is a risky play though, because with the 4/4 coming in the air, that means that at 10 life you're actually dead to a pair of Titan strengths, or even really to basically any 2 combat tricks, because the Skyguard's getting larger there too. So there is a window for Estratti to pull this out. He's got Titan strength in his hand, but drawing planes is not going to be what he needs here.
Important plus a trick.
Now, interestingly, Ari Lax did attack with his 2-powered Philosopher there. He could potentially play around something like Portent of Betrayal by keeping it back, but he decided, no, he doesn't have it. I'm going for it here. This drops Samuele Estratti down to 10 as well, and now Estratti has some tough decisions to make. It looks like the easy one is this.
Right, yeah, I mean, you're definitely attacking with that Skyguard no matter what happens. The question is, you've got to do the computation for how big does Hoplite get after you Titan Strength it. Is that worth trading with the Phalanx even if you want to? Do you want to have it back and maybe use Titan Strength defensively? A lot of options here, even though there's only a few meaningful cards at play. And of course, he's still got the Phalanx from earlier that he can always deploy to the board again. Yeah,
now for Estratti, it's bad news on that Crowan favored Hoplite plan, because it doesn't get big enough to even fight. He needs to get it up to 6 power, and that's not quite enough.
Not quite there. Yeah, I think it's 5.
Yeah,
right.
So he's in quite a pinch here, and I think that Ari Lax is going to put himself in a position where Sudden Storm is going to end the game potentially.
Yeah, exactly. He's got he's got 5 power. If he draws a mountain, that's potentially 7 power.
Well, he has 7 right now.
Oh, so he's got 7. Oh, right. Right, 5 from the Phalanx and then 2 more from the Philosopher.
Correct.
So a mountain would make it 9.
Right. He did not draw a mountain, though. He still has that Crowan Skyguard in his hand. Probably kept it to be able to chump if needed, right? To basically take potentially a turn off. And there's the tap from Sudden Storm. And that's going to put Estratti way behind here, because it looks like Ari Lax is going to be able to battle here for 7, drop him to 3, and then put up a chump blocker. And Estratti's going to need to find something pretty amazing here. Remember, those other 2 creatures are not untapping.
And so he's casting Titan Strength on the upkeep just to get a Scribe before his draw step. And
he needs to find removal, and here we go. He's
going to be putting that oh, wow.
And that's going to do it. Ari Lax slaps his hands together. I don't know if you saw it, but he did the hand rub before, because he knew you got 1 draw step here. And if you don't hit it, that's going to do it. So tight play there from Ari Lax, and he earns the victory, improving to 2-0. at the start of Pro Tour Born of the Gods.
Yeah, and again, you've got to be really excited if you're Ari, improving to 2-0 in the limited portion. You said you were going to practice some limited. It appears to be paying off, and Modern is a format that Ari understands very well. So his ability to come into the constructed portion with a really solid showing in limited has to make him one of the favorites to top 8 this Pro Tour.
All right, jumping over, and we have Shota Yasuoka on the left side of the screen, and he's playing against Rafael Levy there on the right, and you can see Raf is in the tank, hands on his head already. And
Yasuoka not even really looking like he's playing the same deck we saw
what just
earlier.
happened?
Yeah.
Wasn't he playing Sealock monsters before?
That's
Did
what
I miss
thought.
something?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm looking at the sheet again to make sure I'm not screwing up this match with another match, but I thought for sure that was the case.
Well, I'm sitting here trying to take a look at Yasuoka's deck list.
Why don't we get a look at that? And if there's 2 Sealock monsters, that's what I want to know first.
Yeah, so it starts out as 10 islands, 6 plains, base blue deck.
So Yasuoka just threw a huge curveball at Raf Levy here for game 3, maybe even 2, I don't know, and he's gone red-white aggressive.
So his red cards improved 3 Impetuous Sun Chasers, Nyxborn Rollicker, Everflame Eidolon, Demolish a Crowan Crusader, and Spearpoint Oread. Now, all of these cards are ordinarily in his sideboard, but what he might opt into is a really aggressive red-white plan against certain opponents. And evidently he felt that in his matchup against Levy, he needed to be the aggressor.
Yasuoka's insane.
Yeah.
He'll just do that to you. I mean, the guy's a genius.
A thing that I could see is just if you know you're on the play, opting into that hyper-aggressive deck, playing blue splash white for game 1 because it could go either way. I mean, I don't know, frankly. I'm really kind of just speculating.
I know you're guessing, yeah. All right, so Ferris Band Tromper picks up a second +1/+1 counter for Raf Levy.
Now we see a Temple of Triumph in Yasuoka's deck, so that makes the transformation at least a little bit easier.
Interestingly, you notice that there's a couple of different flavors of soldier token there. A couple of them are from a Crowan Crusader, and the other is from Evangel of Heliod, apparently. So this game has gone through some ups and downs, I'm assuming here.
And this, in particular, too, is a complicated combat. We've got a creature that can get potentially really huge. We've got a 5/5 Trampler. You don't want to throw away all of your tokens just to deal with that, especially if you run into a trick. But at 6 life, Yasuoka is going to have to put something together sooner rather than later. You see him kind of going into the tank right now. Not a lot in his hand. Looks like just a pair of mountains. We see Setessan Starbreaker and Lightning Strike for Levy, which he can't be too upset about right here. So Yasuoka needs to try and figure out a way to make his 7 creatures translate into an offense. But that's going to be hard to do facing down these huge attacks from Levy.
Yeah, he just ships a turn back, and Raf Levy gets another counter on his Ferris Band Tromper, and is now surveying the rather complicated scene here. It looks like Yasuoka is all the way down to 6 life.
And when you're facing down a 6/6 Trampler, that is not exactly where you want to be. Or sorry, Fury's Band Tromper doesn't naturally have Trampler.
It does not, yeah.
But so I guess that means he can chump block it until his heart is content.
And he's going to have to start doing some of that here, it looks like. At least chump blocking. He's declined to chump block in the previous turns, and he's also declined to go for any big moves as far as, blocking with his whole team on something or whatever.
I mean, the thing is, Levy doesn't really have to worry too much all of that. He can just kind of keep attacking. Because Yasuoka is at 6, anytime Yasuoka chump blocks, that's essentially what these creatures would be doing if they were staying back to block. The difference is he can start depleting Yasuoka's side of the board and making sure there's no Trumpet Blast-like effect that ends the game in short order.
All right, looks like he's lined up chump trade, potentially. Fanatic of Xenagos is going to trade with Laganaban Elder, and then 2 tokens are going to jump in front of the giant green monsters there. And they're going to hit the bin. Yeah. Raf Levy deciding what he wants to do here. He does have follow-up plays if he wants.
Yeah, I mean...
Setessan Starbreaker, interesting choice here. He can use it to to bolster his board up a bit. Remember, Shato Yosoka's down to 5 here.
And that's, I think, one of the reasons we haven't seen that lightning strike cast is it can actually just go to the face at this point. I really like the play here of just playing the Courser. You have a 3-3, developing your board, leaving up lightning strike mana. Starbreaker is just kind of awkwardly costed right here. It's probably going to sit in your hand for at least a turn. Yeah.
What do you think he's thinking about? He does have a Voyaging Satyr as well.
Yeah, he could do that.
But I mean, a 3-3 is just better, right?
Well, exactly. And I mean, the reason that I was talking about the Courser and Lightning Strike is that you don't want to commit to tapping your 1-2 blocker when you're at 9 in case you need to cast Lightning Strike. That 1-2 actually holding off 3 of Yasuoka's creatures right now.
Yeah, this seems like a perfectly reasonable line here from Raph Levy. He's put himself in a good position. He's not going to fire off that Searing Spear, well, I guess it's the same
kind
card.
of is.
Yeah, that Lightning Strike until the game's actually over as a result of it. I think he's going to attack with all of his big stuff.
We see that Mortal's Ardor from Yasuoka potentially allowing him to pad his life total. Pretty good in concert with a first striking creature. We'll see if he blocks Nessian Courser, decides to take that out, or if he needs to do some more chump blocking of the Nemesis and the 7/7.
The Theros Band Trumper, right.
And we're going to see him make exactly that play. This is going to get him back up to 8 life, assuming nothing happens. Levy might sit and say, okay, I know Yasuoka's at 5, but this is exactly the opportunity to use Searing Spear, or use Lightning Strike that I've been looking for.
It would end the game. And there it is. Lightning Strike to take it down, and he shows him 2 lands and extends the hand. Raph Levy improves to 1-1. Remember, both of these players had lost their first round, so they're looking to get things corrected, and Raph does that here by defeating Shato Yosoka 2-1. So we've got Ari Lax winning in our feature match area, Raphael Levy, Michael Hetrick, and then I believe, here we are flashing in on Owen Turtenwald and Micron.
And not an opportune time for Owen to cut into the match here. We see him chump blocking with his only creature and extending the hand.
That's right. So a bunch of lands in hand there, and he couldn't quite pull it out. So Micron is victorious, and that is our last match for round 2 in the feature match area. You can see people kind of shuffling around as they're ready to go tell their friends either how well they played or a bad beat story, as it were. It kind of depends on the result of your match slip.
Is that what you do, Marshall? You walk around telling people how well you played?
Yeah, that's what I do. Welcome back to the booth. I always play well. He usually does.
I usually do not.
Yeah, but so starting things off here, it's early in the tournament, but these matches are every bit as important as the ones that lead up to the top 8, right?
Well,
and it's hard to remember that sometimes.
Well, I mean, and of course, I mean, obviously, winning is better than losing. The temptation is always to be like, well, of course you want to start out 2-0, 3-0. But in a format like this, the thing is people do have specialties. There are players that are better at limited. There are players that are better at constructed. If your specialty is limited, you know that. You really need to make sure you 2-1 or 3-0 because that's the edge that you have coming into the tournament. If you're someone like Yasuoka, if you're someone like Ari Lax, who's specialty is really constructed someone like Brian Kibler, you're even more excited about a 2-1 or 3-0 finish than you would be one of these limited masters, because that means that you get to play into your strengths, having kind of overcome a hurdle already. So I think, how important a given match is actually depends a lot upon your individual personality and where you think you have to derive your wins.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird factors that factor into stuff like that too. I heard Rich talking about Raph Levy said he's not a morning person, so like little things like that can matter too. Speaking of Rich, I am told they are ready over at the news desk. So we're going to send you over there. Once again, when we come back to the booth, we're going to have the 3rd and final round from our first draft here at Pro Tour Born of the Gods. Don't go anywhere.
All right, thanks very much, Marshall. Thanks, Zach, back with the boys in the booth for round 3. So let's bring you some roundup of some results. First feature match area, for those of you who are not paying attention or just turned up, Ari Lax moves to 2-0. That's big news because he's terrific in Modern. BDM talked earlier this morning about Chris Fennell coming onto that team as a limited specialist. Craig Wesco brought Chris Fennell on that team to GP Mexico City last weekend on Wesco's dime and said, listen, you have to be at that limited Grand Prix last weekend so that you can teach us the secrets of BNG Theros draft. For Lax at least, it's working fine. He's 2-0, he's ahead of his curve, because once he hits Modern, he's really, really good. Keep an eye on Ari Lax defeating Estratti in feature match action. Raf Levy, we saw there, putting Shota Yasuoka to 0-2, the lone wolf from MTG Mint. Yasuoka will have to wait to see what his Modern deck brings to the table, but he's going to be bringing it from an 0-2 hole. Mike Roan, you've just seen just sweeping up the permanents over Owen Turtenwald. So Roan to 2-0, the 2007 Pro Tour Geneva champion. Turtenwald 1-1 from the pantheon, formerly of Channel Fireball, now still sort of Channel Fireball. It's all horses for courses here. And then Michael Hetrick over Rich Hone, H against H, Hetrick to 2-0. Hone to 1-1. Now, what about the two draft pods that we've been concentrating on this morning? Let's take a look at those up on the board. Let's show you what we've got. Well, we're going to begin. Let's see. There we are. We've got Nico Boni advancing to 2-0. You see the dark players, those have their results in the current round. We have live scoreboards updating for you as the day goes on. And in fact, there you are. At that moment, everything goes dark. That pod is now in. So Nico Boni advances to 2-0. Over Antoine Ruel. Ruel now the Hall of Famer at 1-1. Francesco Hugani was up against Travis Wu, and Hugani is up to 2-0. Wu at 1-1. William Huey Jensen is at 1-1. More on him in a moment. Ruel 1-1. Don van Ravenswij, he's off to the races with his first win of the event over the Grand Prix winner from the last 12 months in Europe, Wenzel Krautmann of Germany. And Spencer Garnier still looking for a victory, and that's because William Jensen beat him in the last round. Let's take you to our other draft pod, see what's going on in that one. Still, you just see the Raf Levy Shota Yasuoka result waiting to come in. But we already know, of course, that Raf Levy is the winner there. So Yasuoka in the 0-2 hole. Meanwhile, Elias Watsfeldt from Sweden in an all-Swedish clash has beaten Rasmus Björklund. Singapore's Wei Quan Wong is up to 2-0. And then in the 1-1 mix, Ben Lundqvist, Benny Beatdown from Team Channel Fireball, an acquisition for them for this PT. Jason Southworth, the North Miami PTQ winner, he has his first win on the Pro Tour. Congratulations to him. It's always a big moment when you win a PTQ and then you get your first win. Congratulations to him. Long may that continue. All right, so that's where we are on our two draft pods and the feature match area. But as always, we have a stack of great features lined up for you here on the Pro Tour coverage, and none finer than the Hall of Famer who is standing just off to my left. It's time to go inside the draft viewer. We watched his every pick. Now find out what was going on in his head as those picks happened. Brian David Marshall, William Huey Jensen, it's time for the draft viewer.